Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. In today's video I just wanted to go over one of the new features coming to all our D2R land players out there, which is going to be an integrated color dye system. This feature will be available to all mods and authors, so if it sounds like something that you're interested in, then as usual, please make sure you like and subscribe, helps everybody out, and be sure to check out the video description below for links to our website, Discord, Patreon, and all that kind of stuff. And with the juicy things out of the way, let's get right into the nitty gritty of what we're talking about. So as I said, this is going to be about a color dye system, but it's a little more advanced and a little more full-fledged, in my opinion, than what you may have been used to in the soft-coded side of things or with previous mods with that kind of setup. Again, as a kind of reminder for anybody who's unaware, a color dye system will allow you to choose basically what color you'd like your item to be in game. So if it happened to, get spawned as purple, but you'd much rather have it be black or red, then you can color dye it black or red. And so this will show you how you can set that up, what's been added. So the major portion of this video will be covering how you can use the color dye system in your own mod. And then the latter half of the video will show you some examples of how it all comes together, what kind of things you can do with it, and basically how it's more or less envisioned that you can take advantage of all that. With that out of the way, let's jump right into the mix and start with how you enable this in the first place. There will be a new stat that you will need to add into your mod files. It doesn't matter what row you add this stat on, just as long as this stat exists somewhere. That stat needs to be named color_dye, and that's dye as in DYE. So just to clarify. Again, doesn't really matter where you do it. I'm just showing this one row as an example of what you need. As far as send bits, save bits, all that stuff, you can set this as to whatever you want, but it only needs to be able to store a maximum value of like 22, 23, and it only needs to be able to reduce that same amount, so like a negative value of about that. So my personal recommendation is to use a send and save bit value of 6 with a save add of 23, and this will make sure that you can both subtract and add the values as you need, and this will all make a lot more sense later, but it is pretty simple. So once you've set this save bits and everything, the only other thing you'll need to do is decide if you want a string or not. In a soft-coded dye system, when you color dye your item, it affects the world view only, meaning the item in your inventory still looks plain, or it still looks like the old, color it got from the affix or whatever. It doesn't update. So you kind of need to have a string that tells the player that, hey, this item is in fact color dyed. But with this method, it's actually going to adjust the inventory graphic as well. Again, we'll show all this later in the video, but what that means is that obviously it'll be fairly obvious now if it's been color dyed, because the graphic and the world view will change. But obviously if you want to still add a string, feel free to put it in there. But before you do that, I do want to let you know, again, later in the video, we're going to show how you can use the loot filter to also have those options, while granting you a little more control, in my opinion. So you may want to see how that is done before making your decision. But anyways, that's all that's needed for the stat. Basically, name it color_dye, and then go ahead, assign your save bits and save add as you'd like, with the recommended settings being shown here. And then if you would like, go ahead and add your string reference. With the stat being done, the game is now ready to read that stat. And I use the game word loosely, as it's really the HUD. And again, this is all open source. open source, sorry. Feel free to check it out if you'd like. But it is technically the HUD that is going to be interacting with this stuff. It's going to be reading your files to get the color that you specified, and it's going to be the one that's technically applying this in game. But this will just again open it up as a custom edit so that you have this option in the first place. And once that's just kind of understood, now we can start taking advantage of that stat. So just like really any other stat in the game, how you want to use it is kind of up to you. So as probably most of you will, you can add it as a cube recipe so that, for example, they take an input like an armor and then they cube it with, let's say, a color dye item. Then they get that color back. And then obviously this recipe is for if you want to remove color dyes, you can do that also. But let me explain how we add them real quickly, and then how to remove them will make perfect sense. So what we're taking advantage of are the built-in color transformations that Diablo 2 offers. If we go and open up colors.txt, we are going to see all these entries here. We could ignore this first row, and essentially what we're doing is we're just we're subtracting 1 from the row number we see, and that's the value that we would need to apply to achieve this color. So let me give you an example here. If I want to apply the color crystal red, it's on row 11, but because this first one is a bunk row that's not actually a color, we subtract 1. So really, to apply crystal red, I need to use the value 10. And if I go over here and I look at a crystal red bottle that I have as an example recipe, we can see that it is adding the color dye stat and giving it a property of 10. Now this part is important. Let me actually open this file. I forgot to have this prepped for you. When you're creating, after you've created your stat, you're going to need a new property to control that stat. And this is so it can be used in places such as like your cube or unique set items, affixes, all that kind of stuff. You'll want a property to help control all that for you. So as you can see here, here's the property I've added, color-dye. You can feel free to rename this whatever you'd like. There's only 2 things that are important about it. One is that for the stat1, that you reference the color_dye stat that we created earlier. And then the second one is in the set1 column. You need to make sure you put a 1 in there. And this is important because this will force whatever value you put in the cube to be the new value on the item. If you do not do this, and hypothetically the player had something color dyed blue originally, and it had, let's say, a value of 5, but then they changed it, they color dyed it red, and that has a value of 10. Now the new value is going to show is 15, and they're going to get a completely different color. Again, that's if you don't set this this flag, this column. If you do, then everything happens like you would want it to. When you tell it to use the value 10, it doesn't matter what was previously there. It sets the value to 10 instead of adds it. But again, that's the only important part about the property. Just go ahead and add that. You can use function 1 for the actual function. With that understood, this is what we're controlling now. So when we use color-dye, it references the actual stat color_dye, and this lets us control it so that if I circle back now to the cube, we can see this is how it's setting that new stat that D2RHUD's looking for to help control everything for us. So the sky's the limit here as far as what you want to do, how many colors you want to add, etc. Don't mind our organization too much of this example, but essentially you can just create different recipes for each color you want, and then decide whether you want that applying to armors, weapons, only specific items or codes. You can really get as detailed and as fancy as you want here. The important part is that you can access it and control it all with this stat. And then just a quick touch on the kind of if you want to remove a color dye from an item, the easiest way to do that is to check the data guide. So OP18, that means that the value must exactly equal something. For this example, the new stat we added, the color underscore DUIE, is at index 433 or ID 433. So that's the stat we're checking. And then we're checking to see if it equals 22 so that we know exactly how much of that stat to remove. So again, we get it back to 0, which means no color dye. And then all you're going to do is clone this for 21 rows, and then use the increment fill as you have them all highlighted. I'm going to go ahead and do it for example purposes. Obviously, these aren't all empty or clear dye recipes, but you'll get the drift. So we just set the first value at 1, fill, increment fill, and there's all our different values done. And then we do the same thing over here for the color it checks to remove and stuff like that. But that's how you can just quickly do it. So even though it is a lot of rows for the empty or for the clear dye one, if you want to check each individual stat, it actually only takes a second or two with that. So that's how you can kind of use it in the cube, how you might normally expect. And as you have seen, this is all that's needed really. There's no states to deal with or anything like that. Everything is controlled via this single stat. So you don't need to worry about just that, plain and simple. And then we're getting to the part where I show all this working in game, but I just wanted to show one more example. Here's just a passive skill we have in the game, and I've added fire resist as one of the stats that this skill kind of modifies on a constant basis. And I've set it to use a special calculation that says, hey, for every value of that color dye, go ahead and give me 10% fire resist. Now, obviously, we can see that the color dye is just kind of based on the actual color you want, but this is going to show you that now that it's a stat, you can start including it in special calculations and things like that, where obviously with a state and all the restrictions that come along with that, you're much more restricted in kind of how you can use it. So this will just, again, help show you how you can take advantage of it to do whatever kind of fancy or goofy stuff that you may like. But with that all explained, I think that helps demonstrate how you can take advantage of it in your mod. Now let's go ahead and launch a mod that already has a lot of this in place. As usual, that's going to be Remodded, the kind of pioneer of a lot of this stuff. So let's go ahead and, again, just show it all in actuality how you would probably see it being used in a mod like this or your own. So the first thing I'm going to do is just spawn myself in a little identify scroll, give myself some cheater items, and as you can see here, these are going to be special items that I have not fixed. So you can ignore the special text. I forgot a color code thing in my script on my end, but if we can look past my faux pas, you can see that these are going to be color dye bottles, and while the graphic makes it fairly obvious kind of what color it is, the specific shade you can kind of indicate on your tooltip or however you'd like. But in this case, we have it set so that if you want the color dark red, then you can just cube it with an item now. However, if you wanted crystal red, which is like a more vibrant version of red, a more vibrant shade, then you would need to cube this. And again, we have varying recipes. Again, this is all controlled how you want in the mod, or in this case, how it is here. Again, ignore the weird text. With that done, we can pick any item. I'll go ahead and buy a new one for argument's sake. So we're just going to let's pick this axe here, and we're going to say this is what we want to color dye. We really like this axe, and we're going to go ahead and pop that in with a blue one for now. So we want this axe blue. I'm going to go ahead and transmute it. You can see the inventory also changes to have a blue hue to the axe. Depending on the mod, this may be more or less saturated and stuff. Again, just depends on their particular settings for palette and all that kind of thing. But you can see it's updated. And then in the world view, if we zoom in, you can see I also have a blue axe now. But for some reason we've decided I didn't like it and I just want to remove it back to the original color, which is nothing. I can put in that kind of empty bottle, which is in our case what we use to remove things. Now both the world and inventory dye has gone away, and we're just still unhappy. So let's go ahead and use the red one. Let's make it match some of our other items here, and let's go ahead and dye it red. Just like before, you can see the inventory view as well as the world view gets updated. And as you'll notice on the item itself right now, there is nothing indicated other than the actual visuals that let us know that it's been color dyed. If this is what you like, because you prefer that clean look or whatever, without all the extra stat mumbo jumbo and stuff, you can feel free to leave it like this. Again, it'll depend on if the mod author has added strings to the actual stat or not. These values here, if they've actually added strings or not. If they haven't, and you want to help control that, you can use the loop filter. And so what I've done here is, this is just an example filter that we use, and it currently has 2 filter levels that can be controlled in the launcher. So you can set hotkeys and stuff, and as you can see here, I have my hotkey of F9, just for demo purposes anyways, set to cycling the filter level. And this particular rule will show me the color dyed option if my filter level is at 1. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is press F9 to cycle the filter. We can see I'm now on the beginner filter because it's cycled through. And if I hover over this item, we can now see it plainly spells out that the color dyed is dark red. And then if I press F9 again, we can see that now that I've switched to the expert level filter in this example, that description has gone away. And so this is how I imagine a lot of authors and loot filter, experts and stuff will help control things and give you options for you. But that way, it doesn't have to be hard-coded into the mod if you don't want it to be. You can add it as like a filter level option and have it all part of a toggleable loop filter that you control as you'd like. But yeah, so that's a basic understanding. We've been kind of chatting and streaming here, so big shout out to a lot of these guys. As a reminder, if you guys aren't active in our Discord, you want to get in on some of these developer streams, you want to get more help on the mod, or just talk with some of our awesome community, then I definitely recommend checking out that video description below, as I mentioned earlier. So yeah, you can gain access to these great guys. And with that said, I hope this has been a pretty good, if not somewhat long-winded explanation of how you can really take advantage of this color dye system, make it work how you'd like, both as a mod author and as a player. And again, depending on how it's all implemented in your specific scenario, add a lot of quality of life and just a fun factor to customizing your loadout. And maybe it's a more advanced mod like ours, and those choices end up making differences. Again, as I pointed out earlier, they can be affected by different things like skills or whatever, since it's an actual stat now. So you might find, actually I didn't even show this part, because I've added it as a fire resist stat, we can just check real quick that while I have all this red dyed equipment on, my fire resist is actually quite high. So not only am I maxed, but I'm still 260% beyond maxed. But if I start dropping some items, let's go ahead and switch it. Now I got a blue one. Let's take off that helmet. You can see now I've dropped to 170. because my color values are going down. So you could see how this could be used again depending on what the author is kind of going for, so that maybe you get fire damage boosts or fire piercing boosts if you're wearing a lot of red colored gear, or cold damage for blue gear, vice versa. You can really kind of use this how you want now that it's all done as a stat item. So yeah, I think you guys will really enjoy it, especially as it does the inventory views and stuff now also. It should be a much more complete package for everybody that's a lot simpler to maintain and enjoy. So I will stop talking now. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. You guys have a wonderful rest of the day. Take care. Bye.